Chapter 1. The Whispering Woods. Once upon a time, nestled between misty mountains and the silver-blue coast, lay the kingdom of Leora. Its people were kind, the rivers sang softly through its valleys, and the trees whispered tales from centuries past. But it was the Whispering Woods, just beyond the village of Delmere, that held the oldest secret of all, a legend of love that could wake the stars. In a humble cottage at the edge of those woods lived a lantern maker named Thorne. He was a quiet soul with warm eyes and hands that glowed with the magic of light. Each lantern he crafted was special, glowing not with flame, but with soft orbs of enchantment that danced like fireflies. Thorne lived alone, though not unhappily. His days were filled with the hum of old stories and the crafting of light. But at night, he sometimes wandered to the woods, drawn by a song no one else could hear. It was a voice soft and lilting, like a lark greeting the dawn. And far above, in the highest tower of the Spire castle, Princess Elira also heard it. Elira was no ordinary princess. She studied the stars, read ancient runes, and often escaped the palace to roam the nearby fields. Her heart longed for a connection she could not name, and each time the wind carried that mysterious song, it felt like a thread pulling gently at her soul. One autumn evening, when the moon hung low and the woods glimmered with golden leaves, both Thorne and Elira, unbeknownst to each other, followed the song. They met beneath the old wishing tree, a place where lovers once carved hearts into bark and made promises under the stars. Neither spoke at first. The lantern maker with his glowing orb in hand, the princess with her cloak trailing stardust. "You hear it too?" she asked finally. He nodded. "Every night, like a lark calling across time." "It's a calling," Elira whispered. "I've read about it in the archives. A song that binds two hearts destined to awaken magic forgotten by the world." Thorne's lantern flickered blue, a rare hue, one that meant discovery. From that night, the two met often, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams. But as their bond deepened, so did the whispers from the woods. The trees murmured warnings, and the river no longer sang sweetly. Something ancient had stirred, watching from the shadows. Still, the light between them grew brighter. Chapter 2. The Song. Beneath the Stars. Each night, the Whispering Woods grew more vibrant with their visits. The stars seemed to gather low, as if listening to Thorne and Elira's laughter and quiet talks. Their bond was no ordinary friendship. It was a weaving of two destinies spun long before they were born. Thorne brought lanterns with him each time, each one shaped by Elira's stories. One shimmered like a moonflower, another twinkled with the colors of dawn. Elira, in turn, brought scrolls from the royal archives, tales of olden days when light and love held kingdoms together, and when a lark sang only for a lantern. "The song," she explained one night, seated beside him on a mossy rock, "was written in the sky chronicles. It binds soul to soul. They say when the right two meet and hear it together, the land begins to stir again." Thorne looked at her, his eyes reflecting the soft amber light of the lantern in his palm. "Then we must be part of that tale," he said softly. Their fingers brushed as she took the lantern from him. It flared, bright gold for a moment, and the woods held their breath. But not all were pleased with the returning song. Far beyond the woods, in the ruined shadow of the hollow hills, an ancient presence stirred. Queen Nera, the Lady of Unlight, opened her eyes for the first time in a century. Her throne was made of thorns and blackened stone, and her heart pulsed with cold. "The song returns," she rasped to the ravens perched on her shoulder. "The lantern and the lark awaken. The balance dares to tilt again." She had once ruled all of Leora, before love and light banished her into shadow. Now she rose once more. Back in Delmere, Thorne found his workshop aglow with an unfamiliar warmth. The lanterns on the shelves hummed with light, as though remembering. In the center of the room, one lantern, round as a pearl, with silver threads curling through the glass, began to float. Elira gasped as it hovered toward her. "It knows you," Thorne murmured. When she touched it, her voice involuntarily sang, not a melody she knew, but one she had always carried. The lantern echoed it, casting beams that danced across the rafters in luminous swirls. That night, the song reached every corner of the kingdom. Crops sprouted early. Springs ran clearer. The village children dreamt of starlit paths and glowing gardens. It was as if the land itself was listening again. The king and queen noticed their daughters' bright eyes and secret smiles. They grew curious and wary. The kingdom of Leora had long feared prophecy, and a daughter caught in it was dangerous. "Stay close to the castle walls," the queen warned. "Dreams can become burdens, and songs can turn to curses." But Elira, like the lark she was born to be, would not be caged. Together with Thorne, she ventured deeper into the woods one morning, following a trail of glowing mushrooms only visible to those touched by the song. They led to a pond shaped like a mirror. As they knelt beside it, the water shimmered and spoke. "Elira, daughter of Starlight, Thorne, son of flame, you are the echo and the light. Queen Nera wakes." In the reflection, they saw not themselves, but a world they did not know, a Leora consumed by brambles, the stars dimmed and lanterns shattered. Nera's shadow stretched across the realm, but the vision ended with a single flame and the flight of a white bird, carrying a song like a promise. When they looked at each other, the fear in their hearts was softened by resolve. "We must find the source," Elira whispered. "The source of the song?" Thorne asked. She nodded. "And protect it before Nera does." Thorne touched her hand. "Then let us go. Together." As they walked away from the mirror pond, the woods behind them shimmered in golden threads, weaving light between trees and time. But far in the hollow hills, Queen Nera cast her first spell in 100 years, and the shadows began to move. Chapter 3. The Queen of Unlight. Deep beneath the hollow hills, where light dared not reach, Queen Nera stood at the heart of her broken throne room. The black stone under her feet pulsed with forgotten magic, awakened by the song she had hoped never to hear again. She once ruled all of Leora, not through cruelty, but through fear. A queen of beauty twisted by bitterness, her magic had grown dark the day her own beloved fell in love with another, a lantern maker, just like Thorne. That betrayal shattered Nera's heart and poisoned her power. When the people chose love and light over her dominion, she was cast into shadow, her name lost to all but myths, until now. Her long fingers swept across a crystal globe, revealing two figures walking hand in hand beneath the trees. "The Lark," she hissed, eyes narrowing at Elira's image, "and the lantern." A raven cawed from the rafters. "She holds the starlight," Nera mused, "and he, the ember of creation. Together, they will ignite the source, unless I take it first." She extended her hand, conjuring a flame of cold silver. "Bring me the moonroot," she commanded the shadows, "and awaken the huntsman." Back in the whispering woods, Elira and Thorne followed the trail of light only they could see, a shimmering thread of song that wove itself through trees, stones, and streams. Elira's magic hummed gently at her fingertips, guided by intuition and ancient knowledge. Thorne's lanterns pulsed brighter the closer they drew to the heart of the forest. They arrived at an ancient glade encircled by white trees whose bark gleamed like pearl. In the center stood an altar, cracked by time but still pulsing with power. Hovering above it was a small glowing orb. "The source," Elira breathed. "It's real." Thorne approached slowly, lifting his lantern toward it. As the light met the orb, it harmonized with a low melodic hum, an echo of the song. But the air turned cold. The shadows at the edge of the glade thickened. A horn sounded, deep, mournful, and close. Thorne turned just in time to see a dark-cloaked figure step from the trees, flanked by two shadow wolves. He was tall and silent, his eyes hidden behind a visor of black iron. "The huntsman," Elira whispered. "Nera's guardian." He raised his hand, and the wolves lunged. Elira stepped forward, summoning a wall of starlight that shimmered like crystal. The wolves struck it and recoiled, howling. Thorne grabbed her hand and pulled her back toward the altar. "We can't fight him," he said, "but we can protect the source." He lifted the orb, placing it into his lantern. The moment it touched glass, the lantern ignited with brilliant white fire. The glade exploded in light, driving the huntsmen back. The song surged around them, rippling through the trees and skies. Elira felt it inside her, every heartbeat in tune with the rhythm of love and memory. She reached for Thorne. "The source must be kept safe," she said, her voice steady, "and so must you." They ran, guided by the light of the lantern and the harmony of the song. Behind them, the huntsman knelt in the glade, staring into the scorched altar. He touched the spot where the orb had floated and whispered a name. Nira. Then he vanished into smoke. Back at the castle, the queen and king watched the sky turn brilliant with streaks of light. The stars shimmered in ways they hadn't seen since before Elira was born. "She's done it," the queen murmured. "She's awakened the source." The king was silent. "Then war is coming." Meanwhile, Elira and Thorne reached the edge of the woods, their breaths ragged but spirits unbroken. The lantern's light dimmed slightly, safe but quiet. "We'll need allies," Elira said. "The stars told me so." Thorne nodded. "And I think I know where we'll find them." They looked westward, toward the forgotten coast where sky met sea, and where an old friend of Thorne's once dreamed of flying machines powered by magic. But behind them, Nira was no longer whispering. She was marching. Chapter 4: The Inventor and the Skyglass Tower. The wind sang as it rushed across the clifftop expanse, sweeping over tall dunes of seagrass and tossing salt into the sky. Far on the western edge of Leora, where waves clashed against sharp rocks and gulls wheeled overhead, stood the Skyglass Tower, tall, crooked, and shimmering like a bottle of caught sunlight. Elira gazed up at it, her cloak rippling behind her. "This is where your friend lives?" Thorne nodded, breathless from the journey. "His name is Alder. He's a skymender, cloudcatcher, and wild inventor. If anyone can help us protect the source, it's him." They approached the spiral staircase cut into the rock, climbing it with care. The wind howled louder the higher they went, as if trying to warn them, or perhaps greet them. At the summit, the door to the tower opened with a creak, and a mop of wind-blown hair appeared, followed by a tall young man with soot on his cheeks, a belt full of copper tools, and goggles too large for his face. "Thorne." Alder grinned, pulling him into a hug. "I thought you'd gone and vanished into the woods like a moth." "Nearly did," Thorne laughed. "We need your help, Alder. This is Princess Elira." Alder's eyes widened. "A princess? In my tower? Wearing boots?" "I prefer boots to slippers," Elira said with a smile. "We've brought the source of the song, and the Queen of Unlight is rising to claim it." Alder's grin faded. So the stories were true. They stepped inside. The Skyglass Tower was unlike any place Elira had seen. Spirals of glass floated mid-air, catching and redirecting light. Maps of stars twinkled on the ceiling, while tiny copper birds ticked along wires like clockwork messengers. A large platform hovered near the roof, attached to canvas wings and glowing gears. "The song is in danger," Thorne said, revealing the lantern. "We need to amplify its power and hide it." Alder rubbed his chin. "Amplify and shield, That'll take more than tinkering. I'll need to wake the star loom." "The what?" Elira asked. He led them to a massive, gear-filled chamber where a circular loom of crystal threads hovered, silent. "The star loom weaves spells into sky metal. It's old magic, older than Nira, but it needs a spark of true love to activate." Elira and Thorne exchanged glances. Then, without hesitation, they placed their hands together on the loom's heart. The loom pulsed once, then twice, and came to life. Light spread across its strings, weaving glowing runes in mid-air. The tower filled with the music of stars. The lantern floated upward, its flame brightening, cradled in a dome of starlight. Alder whooped. "It's working! The source is safe, for now." But outside, clouds darkened unnaturally fast. In the hollow hills, Queen Nera stood before her black mirror. The reflection showed the Skyglass tower wrapped in light. "They dare hide it from me," she growled. Beside her, the huntsman knelt. "Shall I retrieve it, my queen?" Nyra's smile was bitter. "Number, we'll draw them out." She raised her arms and cast a spell older than time. Her voice tore through the skies like a storm. "Let the Sea King rise. Let him claim what floats on wind." Far below, the ocean churned. Waves heaved and broke as something vast stirred beneath. From the depths emerged a sea dragon crowned in coral and shadow, its eyes pale and knowing. "Bring me the lantern," it growled. In the tower, Alder's machines began to spark. "Something's coming!" the sea howled. Elira and Thorne rushed to the balcony and saw the massive shape moving through the water toward them. Alder looked at the star loom, still spinning. "It needs more time." Thorne tightened his grip on the lantern. "Then we give it time." Elira stepped beside him. "We face the storm together." Outside, rain began to fall, silver droplets hissing on the stone. The sky grew dark, but the song within the tower sang brighter still, and as the first roar of the sea dragon echoed across the cliffs, the light from the Skyglass tower shot skyward like a beacon. The battle had begun. Chapter 5. The Sea King's Bargain. The tower trembled as waves crashed against the cliffs, sending plumes of sea spray through the air like dragon's breath. From the storm-churned ocean, the Sea King rose, taller than the tower itself, his body coiled in scales like mother of pearl, crowned with coral horns, and his eyes glowing with a deep, ancient sorrow. "Give me the lantern," he boomed, voice like thunder wrapped in sea mist, "or I shall take it by tide and tempest." Thorne held the lantern close, its light pulsing brightly. "We cannot. The source must remain protected, or Queen Nera will turn the whole of Leora to stone." The Sea King's eyes narrowed. "Nera promised me what you now hold, a gift in return for my silence." Elira stepped forward, her cloak clinging to her in the rain. "She lies, Sea King. She always has. The lantern is not a weapon. It is a song. It awakens, not destroys." The Sea King growled low, the waves rising behind him like great claws. "I once sang," he said suddenly, softer now. "Long ago, before the sea grew heavy with loss, the song brought color to the coral and laughter to the deep. But it was stolen from me." Thorne's voice was gentle. "Let us share it with you again." He opened the lantern. A thread of melody rose from its flame, curling into the air like a ribbon of hope. It was the same song Elira had heard that night under the wishing tree, soft, timeless, and filled with longing. The Sea King stilled. The sea calmed, his massive head lowered toward the balcony. "A bargain, then," he murmured. "I will not take the lantern, nor serve Nera, but if you wish to keep her from it, you must carry the song beyond the sky. The stars alone can hold what the land cannot." Alder stepped forward. "That means my skyship." The Sea King nodded once. "Then go." "I will hold back the tides, but only for a while. Once Nera discovers you are beyond her reach, she will turn her wrath upon the earth." The ground trembled. A distant tree cracked in half. "There's no time," Elira said. "We must fly now." Inside the tower, Alder and Thorne worked quickly. The star loom spun its final threads, sealing the lantern in a crystal cradle lined with skyglass. The ship, a graceful machine of silver wings, starlight sails, and humming gears, stood ready on the platform. Its name was etched in ancient script, Aurora's Wake. Elira stared at it in wonder. "It's beautiful," Alder chuckled, tightening a bolt. "It had better be. I built it from dreams and madness." They climbed aboard just as the waves swelled again. The Sea King raised his arms, chanting words in the language of the deep. The sea around the cliffs parted briefly, giving them a path to launch. "Fly," he commanded, "and may the sky remember the song." With a roar of wind and magic, Aurora's Wake lifted from the tower. Below, the Sea King plunged back into the depths, his duty renewed. The storm began to fade, but a black cloud remained on the horizon, rolling from the hollow hills like a shadow with teeth. Nira had felt the shift. She screamed into her mirror, shattering it with a single word. Skybound! She summoned her ravens and cloaked herself in smoke. They think the stars will shield them? She spat. Then I will tear the stars from the sky. In the skyship, Elira stood at the bow, eyes fixed on the horizon. Do you think we can reach the celestial spire? She asked. We must, Thorne said, adjusting the lantern's cradle. It's the only place where the song can be safely sung. The ship soared higher, the land shrinking below. Clouds gave way to constellations, and the air turned thin and sparkling. They were nearing the edge of the world. Elira took Thorne's hand. Wherever we go, she whispered, we go together. He nodded. Always. But behind them, streaking through the upper skies, came a winged shape of shadow, black feathers, gleaming eyes, and a cloak of storm. Nyra was coming. Chapter 6. The Spire Above Stars. The stars stretched wide around them, glowing in hues of sapphire, rose, and gold. Aurora's wake soared beyond the clouds, beyond even the winds, into the quiet realm where day and night kissed at the edge of forever. Elira had never seen such sky. It's like we're flying through a dream. Thorne nodded beside her. This is where the oldest songs were born. Alder, at the helm, called out, We're near. Look. There, rising like a crystal flame from the belly of the firmament, was the celestial spire, a tower of translucent light, spinning gently with the rhythm of the stars. Its base hovered among aurora winds, and its peak vanished into the heavens. The spire will amplify the song, Elira said. It will send it across all of Leora, awakening every forgotten light. But only if we reach it first, Thorne added, glancing behind. In the ship's wake, the shadow still followed. Nira. She rode a beast shaped like a raven and a storm, its wings stretching wide enough to blot out stars. Cloaked in black silk and bitter wind, she flew in silence, but her fury surged ahead like thunder. Inside the ship, the lantern pulsed steadily. The source's power grew stronger the closer they flew to the spire, but so did Nyra's pull. She's calling to it, Alder warned. She wants to twist the song, turn it to sorrow. Elira closed her eyes and listened. For a moment, she could hear both melodies, one pure and sweet, the other aching and bitter. She understood now why Nira had become what she was, not out of hunger for power, but because her love had turned to grief. Thorne touched her shoulder. The song is about choice. We can't let her make it for us. They neared the spire. The ship's wings trembled as celestial winds pushed against them. Stars whispered in languages older than time. The song filled the space around them. As they landed on the spire's floating platform, a soft voice greeted them. You have come, as foretold. A figure stepped from the spire's light, a woman of silver and flame, with eyes like mirrored moons. She was the Starkeeper, guardian of the spire. Two hearts in harmony, one lantern, one lark, she said. You carry the song of renewal, but the shadow follows. She means to silence it, Elira said. Forever. The Starkeeper bowed her head. Then sing it now, while light still holds. Elira and Thorne approached the heart of the spire, where a glowing pedestal awaited the lantern. They placed it gently upon the crystal, and it rose, spinning. The spire's walls turned into windows. Across Leora all was visible, the villages, the mountains, the forests where the wishing tree waited patiently. Everything held its breath. Elira began to sing, not words, but light in the form of sound, hope, love, memory, and magic. The song spilled into the stars, wrapping Leora in warmth and color. But then the shadow struck. Nyra descended like a blade, crashing onto the spire's edge. Her raven beast shrieked as it dissolved into smoke. Her cloak flared with fury. You would take it from me? She hissed. Again? She held out her hand. The lantern trembled in midair. Stop! Thorne shouted. "You were not meant to destroy this world. You were meant to protect it." She laughed bitterly. "I was meant to be loved, but love betrayed me." "No," Elira said gently. "Love waits, even in grief, even in shadow." Naira hesitated. The storm in her eyes flickered. "You still carry the song," Elira added. "It's twisted by pain, but it's still yours." Naira looked at her hands. "I am too far gone." Thorne stepped beside Elira. "Then let the song carry you home." Together they reached out. The lantern flared, blinding, golden. It did not banish Naira. It embraced her. For a single moment, all of them were held in silence. The sorrow unraveled, thread by thread, until only light remained. Naira collapsed to her knees. Tears fell like rain. "I remember," she whispered. "His name was Arian. He gave me a song." Elira knelt beside her. "Then keep it, and let it grow again." The spire sang louder. The song spread to every corner of the world, waking trees, warming hearts, and painting the skies anew. Naira rose slowly. "The stars forgive," she said. And with that, she vanished into the wind, not defeated, but set free. Chapter 7. The Festival of the Song. A month passed. The spire no longer shimmered alone in the heavens. Now it glowed like a beacon of unity, its melody woven gently into the winds and rivers of Leora. The song had changed everything. In the village of Delmere, blossoms bloomed early, laughter rang in the cobbled streets, and each night, lanterns floated into the sky, echoing the light of the source. It was the eve of the Festival of the Song, a new celebration born from the awakening. Across Leora, people hung silver stars in their windows and sang together at sunset. All remembered the tale of the lantern and the lark. Thorne stood beneath the wishing tree, which now gleamed faintly, its bark streaked with living light. He adjusted a small lantern in his hands, a gift he'd made for Elira, etched with their names and glowing gently in pink gold fire. He turned as Elira approached, her hair adorned with woven wildflowers and her smile brighter than the morning sun. "I thought you might be here," she said softly. "I could say the same to you," Thorne replied, handing her the lantern. "Happy festival." She accepted it with a light laugh. "You never stop making magic, do you?" "Only when you're near. Then I just listen to it instead." They sat on the bench beneath the tree, gazing out toward the hills where tiny dots of color, families, children, musicians, were gathering for the grand celebration. Alder appeared next, dusted in glitter and soot, carrying a small mechanical bird that chirped in time with the wind. "I programmed it to hum the song at sunset," he declared proudly. "And look!" He held up a roll of parchment. "The Queen herself commissioned me to build a permanent starglow garden in the palace grounds." Thorne raised an eyebrow. "Alder, you're a royal inventor now." "I prefer Sky Tinkerer," he grinned. "But yes, I suppose I am." The three of them walked together into the village green, where strings of floating lanterns bobbed above the crowd. There were pastries shaped like stars, dancers wearing cloaks of wind-blown silk, and musicians with instruments carved from skyglass and silverwood. At the center stood a large crystal platform shaped like a heart, where anyone could step forward and add their voice to the song. One by one, villagers came forward, singing lullabies, poems, hopes, and thank yous. And with each offering, the lantern above them pulsed and sent a thread of light into the sky. When it was Elira's turn, the crowd hushed. She stepped onto the platform, holding Thorne's lantern close. "I once believed that songs were only for those with perfect voices," she began. "But I've learned that the truest music comes from the heart, from choosing love, even when it's hard, even when the past calls you to bitterness." She turned to Thorne, who had stepped onto the platform beside her. "We've carried the song across stars, through sorrow and into joy, and I believe it's time to let it grow in a new way." Then, before the crowd, Elira took Thorne's hand. "I love you," she whispered, "not just for your lanterns or your kindness, but for the way you saw me before I even saw myself." Thorne's reply was a kiss on her brow, gentle as dawn. Alder wiped a tear with his sleeve. "Finally," he sniffed, "I was beginning to think you two were waiting for the next age of magic." The crowd laughed. As the sun dipped below the hills, Elira and Thorne began to sing. Not loudly, not perfectly, but clearly and together. The lantern between them rose, glowing brighter than ever. Above, the stars shimmered and sent back a chorus. The sky burst into streams of color, violet, gold, rose, and sea foam, dancing across the heavens like paint brushed by angels. Lanterns drifted up into the sky, each carrying a wish or a memory. And in the distance, on a lonely hill, a cloaked figure watched, Naira, no longer shadowed, no longer feared. Her face was softer now, her hair streaked with moonlight. She listened, and for the first time in a century, she smiled. Chapter 8. Ever After, Alight. The days that followed the festival of the song were like something from a long-forgotten dream. In every corner of Leora, lanterns glowed not only with light, but with memory. People smiled more easily. Children sang old rhymes reborn with new meaning. The rivers ran clearer, and even the wind seemed to hum a quiet melody of contentment. In the heart of Delmere, the wishing tree bloomed with flowers that no one had planted, pearlescent petals that only opened beneath moonlight. Each one was said to hold a wish made in truth and love. Elira stood beneath its branches, her fingers gently tracing a petal's edge. She had changed, not in how she looked, but in the quiet strength she carried. She no longer felt the need to run from the castle or from destiny. Instead, she had chosen her own story and sung it into being. Behind her, Thorne approached, carrying a newly finished lantern. It was shaped like a lark in mid-flight, with threads of skyglass running through its wings and a golden flame in its chest. "I made it for the archives," he said, "for the next generation of dreamers." She smiled and took his hand. "You've become a legend, you know." "I'm just a lantern maker," he said, blushing slightly. "No," Elira replied. "You're the reason light returned to the world." Alder arrived a moment later, holding a scroll that trailed behind him like a tail. "I just received the Queen's latest royal decree. Would you believe it? She's creating a school of starcraft. Wants me to teach flight and harmony engineering." Thorne chuckled. "Harmony engineering?" "Yes," Alder beamed. "How to design machines that sing in tune with the world." They all laughed, but even as the merriment filled the air, something deeper stirred, something content and whole. There was no war to be fought now, no curse to undo, only the living of life and the shaping of it with care. A week later, Elira and Thorne returned to the Spire castle, not as princess and subject, but as equals, welcomed with joy. The king stepped down from his formal throne and embraced his daughter in the great hall, eyes filled with unshed tears. "I feared we would lose you," he said quietly. "You never did," Elira answered. "You just had to let me fly." They held a quiet ceremony in the palace gardens, beneath sky trees that shimmered with starlight. There were no crowns, no grand declarations, just two people standing hand in hand, their hearts speaking louder than any vow. The people called it a marriage, but Thorne and Elira never used that word. They called it the promise of the lantern and the lark, to walk beside one another, lighting the way where darkness might return. Years passed. The song never faded. When children asked where it came from, their parents would tell the tale of a girl who followed a melody into the forest, and a boy who shaped light with his hands, of a queen who forgot how to love and was reminded, of a world that remembered what it meant to feel hope. And in the heart of Delmere, the wishing tree stood tall, surrounded by a ring of lanterns that never dimmed. Some said that if you stood beneath it on a moonlit night, you could still hear the faint echo of a lark's song and feel the warmth of a flame that once lit the stars. As for Thorne and Elira, they never stopped wandering, sometimes in the sky, sometimes across the hills and woods. But they always returned home, where the light first found them, together. Not because a tale said they must, but because they chose to, again and again, every day, ever after, Alight,